Hey guys, it's Greg with Apple Explained, and today we're going to explore how iMessage has evolved since its release and how it contributed to Apple being in a sticky situation with the US government. This topic won last week's voting poll, and if you didn't get to vote, make sure you're subscribed. That way the voting polls will show up right in your activity feed, and you can let me know which video you'd like to see next. So iMessage is essentially a replacement for SMS that works between Apple devices. Like all great instant messaging platforms, it allows users to send and receive messages, stickers, emojis, images, and all sorts of attachments using Wi-Fi, Ethernet, or mobile data. In its current form, iMessage works on any iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch running iOS 5 and up, or any Mac with OS X Mountain Lion and up. You can register your account to your phone number like SMS or to your email address or to a bunch of email addresses if that's your thing. Before I get into the history and some of the controversies that have come up, I want to go a little deeper into what iMessage actually does. So the iMessage protocol is a binary protocol based off the Apple push notification service. Messages are encrypted end-to-end and have delivery receipts that you can access through read receipts. On iPhones, messages can be sent via SMS or MMS, which show up in green text bubbles, or data, which show up as blue. Sent messages show up on the right, replies on the left. Pretty intuitive for anyone who's ever used iMessage or any other messaging app. One of the nice features over a strict SMS service is that you can see when another user is typing a message to you. Originally, there were some issues with non-iPhone users not receiving messages sent through iMessage. I'll get to that a little later, but that's been fixed now, and messages sent via data to a non-iOS user now get automatically converted to SMS. Alright, so now I'm going to get into the actual history of iMessage. It was first announced at the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference in 2011. Scott Forstall revealed it during his keynote on June 6th, and it was released in the iOS 5 update just a few months later in October. It was the same year that iCloud, OS X Lion, AirDrop, Launchpad, and Mission Control were launched, so a lot of important things happened that year. This first version was already pretty impressive. It was designed to take the place of SMS without changing apps so that users would have a seamless transition to the iMessage protocol. And it included the ability to send everything from basic text messages to contact information, real-time locations, and read receipts. It also transferred pictures way faster and in much higher resolution than SMS because it took advantage of the iPhone's data connection. One of the changes that came with iOS 6 in 2012 was the ability to send iMessages from devices linked to your phone number. That meant you could send and receive texts from your iPad, iPod Touch, or Mac. Along with some aesthetic changes, there wasn't much more that changed until 2015 with the release of iOS 9. In this update, Apple made the wise choice to rearrange the notification center to chronological order instead of having notifications grouped by app. This made navigating notifications, especially messages, way easier for users, particularly those who had messages coming in from multiple apps. Apple also introduced a bunch of other easy-to-use updates like quick replies, which let users respond to messages without even opening the iMessage app, and improved the search function. Next, we get to the current state of iMessage. It's now part of the broader Messages apps available on iOS and macOS that includes iMessage, Message, iMessage Service, the Messages Framework, and the App Store for iMessage, a bunch of which were added later on for iOS 10. There are a ton of new features that make it stand out from other messaging apps. Recent versions include screen effects like bubbles, fireworks, and lasers that you can select to show up on your screen and the screen of the person you're sending it to. There are also, of course, stickers and emojis, but also supersized emojis, access to GIFs, and tap-back responses that include a heart, thumbs up, thumbs down, and more. iOS 10 also introduced Digital Touch, which let you sketch images directly on the screen, use haptic tap, and send your live heartbeat through the iPhone and iPad interface, a feature that was originally limited to Apple Watches. Basically, you can send just about anything through iMessage, from any Apple device to any device, period. To add even more unique features to the list, users can now download quite a few extensions that add even more features. Secret for iMessage allows users to send messages that disappear from the app after a period of time, like Snapchat or Signal disappearing messages. Circle for iMessage adds an extension to send money in dollars, euros, pounds, or Bitcoin to any other user. iMessage Analyzer lets users take a peek into their own messaging habits with detailed specifics about word usage, how often you get contacted, and more. This was a pretty big development for iMessage, which didn't allow add-on apps until iOS 10. This step not only means that users can have more flexibility with how they send messages, but that the iMessage system is evolving into a more self-sustaining platform with functionality far beyond just instant messaging. Since iMessage has a ton of features and is designed to work with Apple products, you'd think it would be the go-to choice for Apple users when it comes to sending messages. Unfortunately for Apple, it's not. Depending on the country, most users stick to alternative apps for their messaging. WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger are in the lead, with Line, Telegram, WeChat, and Viber as some of the other popular runner-ups. Despite all of its features, a lot of iPhone users install an alternative messaging app almost as soon as they pull it out of the box, which might be why Apple has been working so hard to increase functionality and access to additional apps. The exception to this rule seems to be with teenagers in the United States, who average about 25 iMessages a day, according to an analysis by the CEO of the FAM messaging app. A lot of adults, though, are looking for safer and more independent messaging alternatives, especially in the wake of the Cambridge Analytica scandal. In particular, a lot of people are looking to messaging apps with heavy encryption and some extra security features like Signal, and iMessage has a bit of a history with data vulnerabilities. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, or EFF for short, gives apps security ratings based on features like encryption, forward secrecy, history of security audits, documentation of existing security measures, identity verification, and ability for independent review. iMessage was included in these ratings in the 2014 Secure Messaging Scorecard and got a 5 out of 7. It ranked high in most areas, but Apple's code secrecy prevented a lot of independent auditing, and it was impossible for users to verify contacts' identities. Some cryptographers argued that there were some hidden but big vulnerabilities in iMessage, especially for man-in-the-middle attacks, and that some of the features Apple claimed, like forward secrecy, weren't as strong as they intended to be. Other reviewers had similar complaints, and a big independent audit showed that the end-to-end encryption iMessage used wasn't actually very strong at all. So in March 2016, a report came out from a group of researchers at Johns Hopkins University led by Matthew Green. It showed that the bulletproof commercial encryption offered by Apple for instant messages, pictures, and videos wasn't so bulletproof after all. The report was in a big part in response to the San Bernardino terrorist attack earlier that year, when 2 shooters killed 14 people, and the Justice Department attempted to force Apple to give up encryption data on the shooters' phones, which would loosen up encryption for all iPhones. As it turns out, there were already plenty of vulnerabilities that the FBI and hackers could exploit to get to sensitive data past Apple's encryption. Basically, anyone who could access ciphertext could potentially decrypt photos and videos, whether that be a government official or a hacker. Apple didn't loosen their encryption in iMessage in response to the San Bernardino incident though, and they actually patched this vulnerability before the Johns Hopkins report was released to the public. This 2016 vulnerability report wasn't the only controversy surrounding iMessage, though. In 2014, a customer filed a lawsuit against Apple after turning in her iPhone for an Android. She, along with thousands of other ex-iPhone users, discovered that they weren't receiving messages from Apple users anymore once they made the switch. Because iMessage handles SMS differently than other texting apps, messages sent to ex-iPhone users from current Apple users were disappearing and causing all sorts of issues. Some users felt forced to go back to iPhone from Android, and others had to change their phone numbers to solve the issue. Apple employees admitted to the problem openly, and many users felt that it was deliberate on the part of Apple to keep more money and more users in their pockets. The original case failed to make class action status and was heard by a federal court in San Jose, where the claimant argued that she was being penalized by Apple for switching to a different product. Ultimately, though, the case was dismissed. Apple offered a solution to the problem by posting a help article on their website that describes the fix. All you have to do is log into your Apple account and remove your phone number from your profile. Independent developers have offered their own solutions to the cross-platform problem too. Eric Chi, an open-source developer, launched iMessage, a project that allows iMessage to connect with Android devices. With this code, Android phones can send and receive messages through iMessage, which not only solves the problem of lost messages for ex-iPhone users, but offers a whole new set of messaging options for non-Apple users in general. The other major controversy facing the iMessage app is massive patent lawsuits that's still ongoing. One lawsuit started in 2010 when VernetX, a company mostly involved in the collection of patents, accused Apple of infringing on its intellectual property. VernetX is a patent assertion entity, or what some people refer to as a patent troll. Its primary purpose seems to be to accumulate patents and then sue tech companies that use similar technology. In this case, VernetX sued Apple over patent infringements for FaceTime, VPN on demand, and of course iMessage. The case has gone through several different decisions and an incredible number of appeals. Early on, a jury awarded VernetX $302 million in damages from Apple, which then increased to $439.7 million by a judge's decision. The case was appealed by Apple, but with over 400 million devices with the alleged offending tech sold since then, few courts have been sympathetic. In April, a Texas federal jury increased the damages even more, to over $500 million. Apple's lawyers haven't commented yet if they plan to make another appeal, but since they brought in $20 billion in the first quarter of 2018, they may just pay the damages to end the nearly decade-long dispute. I wanted to wrap up with a few stats about iMessage and instant messaging as a whole. The consulting firm Chenton Sharma has shown that SMS texting has declined pretty significantly in the last several years, and it attributes some of this international decline to more inclusive, well-rounded apps like iMessage. That's not really surprising considering how many messages are sent with this platform every day. As of 2012, just 1 year after its release, 300 billion messages had been sent in iMessage, averaging about 28,000 messages per second. In 2016, that number had grown to 200,000 messages per second, and a staggering 63 quadrillion iMessages sent per year. Today, there are no official usage reports released, but it's safe to assume that that number is higher than ever before. So that is the history of iMessage, and if you want to vote for the next video topic, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.